Hello, my fellow Diablo enthusiasts. It is your good friend, TheMovieCuban, back once again, and man, am I excited, guys. BlizzCon just ended like a week or so ago, and there is so much new stuff that I'm hyped about. I can't wait for the Necromancer, the Rise of the Necromancer pack that they're going to release in 2017. Um, I'm really, really, really excited about the next patch that's coming out because, frankly, there are going to be a lot of items that I haven't thought about in a long time that are going to get retooled to be very useful. In fact, I am waiting on one of the items in particular so that the build that I'm going to talk to you about today can actually blossom into its full potential. And I've also heard that the engine in the new patch is actually being increased to a 64-bit engine. Um, I'm not sure what the ramifications of that are. I'm not any sort of a tech whiz, and I wouldn't claim to be. But it all just sounds like Blizzard has been doing a lot of work to try and breathe some new life back into this game that you and I enjoy so much, and I feel like they should be given some credit for that. Now, the build that I want to talk to you guys about today is in preparation of patch 2.4.3. So before you guys go into the comments section and be like, "Oh my God, man, this build is garbage. How could you possibly upload this to YouTube?" Keep in mind, this build is not yet fully ready because it's waiting for the new patch. But in the meantime, I wanted to go over this because it's probably going to be the build that I use for a long time with the Witch Doctor because it involves Spirit Barrage, a skill that I hadn't really gotten a chance to use in a really long time, but it was always a skill that I really enjoyed. So, let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, the item that I'm going to need in the new patch is the Barber. And I know many of you remember it. For those that don't, let me go ahead and just pull it up in the cube. This is the Barber. In the new patch, the Barber is being retooled into a Spirit Barrage knife, or a dagger rather, and it makes it so that rather than doing damage, Spirit Barrage kind of just stacks up on your enemy, and then the next time you cast or when you stop channeling Spirit Barrage, your enemies explode. Now, I'm paraphrasing from what I've read in the patch notes, but basically between the Barber and the Vooz Juicer, this build is supposed to be really, really strong once the new patch hits, and I'm quite excited for that. To go over our gear, this is going to be a Legacy of Nightmares build again. Unfortunately, there is no set that caters specifically to Spirit Barrage and gives it any sort of damage increase. So we're going to have to make our own, which isn't really such a bad thing. You know, you'll get a chance to really decide on what you want to put into the build. You can tweak it, put little things in there that are your own and things that fit your own particular play style. And this is what I have going so far. Now, this build is going to be a combination of a pet build and a channeling build, but it's not technically a channeling build since Spirit Barrage is not a channeling skill. But I'll get into that later. For this build, you are going to absolutely need um, 4 pieces of gear. You're going to, by name, you're going to need a Wailing Host and a Litany of the Undaunted. Those are the Legacy of Nightmare rings. The ones that allow you to run the setless set, as some of us like to call it. So you're going to want Wailing Host here, preferably Ancient, since the set bonus makes it so that every Ancient you have equipped increases your damage by 100% and reduces your damage by 4%. You're also going to want, of course, Litany of the Undaunted because it's the other ring. You're going to want an Ancient just so that it helps add to that damage increase. You're also going to need a Gazing Demise. This makes it so that Spirit Barrage gains the Phantasm rune, and each active Phantasm increases the damage of Spirit Barrage by between 40 and 50%. Now, you also need to keep in mind that the Phantasm rune only lasts for 5 seconds. Each Phantasm only circles around in a little area for 5 seconds. So that damage boost doesn't last long. But you can stack it to 3 if you click it really fast. And a lot of people do that to get like the full benefit of the Gazing Demise. But if you're going to do that, I would recommend waiting for when you're fighting elites and champions. The other piece of gear that you are absolutely 100% going to need is the Vooz Juicer. I do not have an ancient version of this yet, but I intend to work to get one. This makes it so that Spirit Barrage gains the effects of the Phlebotomize and the Spirit is Willing runes. For those of you who don't know what those do, Phlebotomize gives you basically life on hit, and the Spirit is Willing gives you mana on hit. So it helps to keep up your resources and your health while you are using Spirit Barrage, and it's actually really nice. We're also wanting Vooz Juicer because, as you can see there at the bottom, it has a natural chance of rolling increased Spirit Barrage damage, and that can roll anywhere from 45 to 60%. And I have a nice 55% one right now. I'm probably going to change it as soon as I find an ancient version. Hopefully it has a equal or higher increased Spirit Barrage damage roll on it, but we will see about that when we get to it. For the rest of your gear, it's really up to you on what you're trying to accomplish. For me personally, since I wanted to put pets into this build, I'm running Tasker and Theo and the Mask of Jerem here. You could run anything like Mage Fists if you want to just go gung-ho on spirit damage and increase fire. You could use Frostburn Gauntlets if you want to go cold. Like, the sky is literally the limit, guys. So I'm using Tasker and Theo to increase the attack speed of my pets. This one rolled for 48%. Frankly, I don't believe the 2% is a big enough difference that I would need to try and find a new pair right now. If I stumble across a better pair later, I'll probably go with those, but you know. The same goes for my Mask of Jerem. The pets deal increased damage did not roll at all the way that I wanted it to. I would have preferred at least a roll in the 90s, but hey, you take what you can get. For my shoulders here, I am only wearing the Mantle of Channeling because it is an ancient pair of shoulders. These do nothing for the build, as I've mentioned a couple times now. Spirit Barrage is not a channeling skill, and therefore would not gain any benefit from the mantle. But because it's ancient and because it is contributing to the the Legacy of Nightmares set, that is why I have it on there. You're going to want the Aquila Cuirass, so that while you're above a certain amount of primary resource, all damage taken is reduced by 50%. You're going to want the illusory boots, simply because being able to walk through everything is actually really nice and makes it so that you don't get stuck in like places that you don't want to be. You're also going to be running the Lacumba's ornament bracers so that you get the 30% damage reduction when you have full stacks of Soul Harvest. We are not using the Sacred Harvester in this build, so we will not have that 60% of damage reduction like so many other builds go for. For pants, I am running the Poxfolds simply because they do extra damage, and ideally I will be using Swampland Waders when the new patch hits, because Swampland Waders no longer, I believe, has to roll poison damage, so it can roll the other damage types like cold and fire and all that. But for now, I'm just using the Poxfolds for a little bit of extra damage. I'm running the Belt of Transcendence, which, as you can see, is not ancient. I was told that it would probably be wiser to run with the Belt of Transcendence simply because by doing so you lower the risk of being just one-shotted by things. Your pets can tank some of the damage for you and keep some of those enemies back. If you don't like using the Belt of Transcendence, you can always swap it out for a Witching Hour, which, as you can see, I lost a little bit of toughness there, but the damage increase would more than make up for that. So honestly, we'll just leave the Witching Hour on for this run, and we'll see how that goes, so that you can see along with me. Um, for legendary gems, I am running the Enhancer in order to power up my pets and make them take less damage so they don't die as often. I'm using Zay's Stone of Vengeance simply so that I go between keeping my distance and getting really close to the enemies. So having Zays for when I'm far away to give me a little bit of extra damage is really nice. And then for when I'm up close, I'll run the Confidence Ritual passive. And then for my necklace, we are using a Hellfire Amulet. You're basically going to use any Hellfire Amulet that has one of 5 passives, which I will get to in a minute. Over in the cube, in the weapons slot, when the new patch hits, you will absolutely be running the Barber. This will not be up to debate. You will be completely restraining yourself on decent damage if you do anything else once the patch hits. But for now, I'm just using the Furnace for a little bit more of elite damage. I'm using Cinder Coat to reduce the cost of fire skills, and then I'm using the Short Man's Finger so I can have the 3 Gargantuans as opposed to the 1 Gargantuan. For our skills, I am using the Fire Rune on Spirit Barrage Well of Souls so that an additional 3 spirits seek out other enemies and deal 65% weapon damage as fire. I'm only running this because I don't really like the way the Manitou works right now. Frankly, I know it will be the better choice once the new patch hits, but for now, I just like something a little bit more direct. I can keep my distance and keep throwing it at the enemies while my pets do most of the work. And since I have the Spirit is Willing, Phantasm, and Phlebotomize through Vu's Juicer and the whatchamacallit, the Gazing Demise, it just seemed like the better option if I wanted to go with fire. If you want to do cold, by all means do the Manitou. It's going to be really strong once the new patch hits, and I'll probably switch over to it then. But for the meantime, this is what I have found that I like, and this is probably going to be what I'm going to stick with. Piranha's Pyranado, just to get a little bit of that crowd control and that increased damage. Spirit Walk Jaunt to get you out of those really bad situations. Soul Harvest Languish to increase your armor. We're using Summon Zombie Dogs Leeching Beasts so that you can keep up your health. And then Gargantuan Humongoid, since they do the most damage of the Gargantuan runes and will do cold damage to your enemies, which will proc your Bane of the Trapped gem. For your passives, I am running Graven Justice so that we can get 1% of our life and mana and reduce our cooldowns. I am using Pierce the Veil to increase damage but raise my mana costs. Confidence Ritual so I deal more damage when I'm closer to enemies. Spirit Vessel for my auto res in case I need that. And then of course on the Hellfire Amulet I have the Midnight Feast passive to increase the damage of my pets just a little bit. And then for Paragon points, I maxed out my mana and my movement speed. I have 10% on my boots, so I only need 15 here. And then I tossed everything else into intelligence because I already have like a million life and I don't really need any more vitality at this stage. When I start moving up into higher difficulty stuff, then yeah, I'll probably switch more into vitality, but until then I don't really feel the need to do it. For my offensive tab, just max out everything you have. I would start, of course, with attack speed and critical hit chance, and then I would increase the CHD and your cooldown reduction. For the defense tab, honestly, do it in whatever order you want, but don't start with life regeneration. It's seriously just, it's the least valuable of these three, and you're definitely going to want these maxed out before you worry about life regen, in my personal opinion anyway. For utility, start with resource cost reduction, then area damage, and then you can worry about life per hit and gold find. So, now that I've shown you the build and all that, I'm going to run you through a Torment 13 Greater Rift. I would run a higher rift, but frankly I haven't done any testing with the Witching Hour. I kind of want to know what I'm getting myself into before I try and go any higher. So without further ado, let us see how this build fares on Torment 13 together. For those of you who aren't into gameplay sections and you don't want to just watch me play the game, you can leave now, and if so, I'd like to thank you for watching the video. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to do that. If you're interested in more content from me, go ahead and subscribe to my channel down below, like the video, leave a comment, just show your support. And for the rest of you, let's go ahead and take a look. Now, because we are versatile in terms of both distance and close fighting, we're going to do decent damage. But we're also going to need to be careful that we don't get graped by those kinds of effects. I almost died to fire right there. Way to go, me. But you just keep your distance far enough that your pets can keep everything aggroed on them, and then you just basically triple click when elite packs show up so that you can summon those phantasms, get that extra damage, and then things eventually just die. And this will be a lot faster come the new patch when the barber is actually able to do its thing. But for now, I just wanted a build that I could run through on T13 and do rifts to collect death's breaths and maybe run bounties so I can get the axe specific materials for those. Because trying to reroll everything into ancients takes up a lot of materials, as I'm sure you all know. But I love this build because your pets do a lot of damage. I'm actually really liking having swapped the witching hour in, if for the fact that it's giving my pets a little bit extra damage. I think I do somewhat miss the fetishes from the Belt of Transcendence, but I don't think I miss them enough that I will be changing the belt back. Because even with just the dogs and the gargantuans, they do a pretty good job at tanking. So, thunderstormers. Die! Thank you. But it is actually really nice to have a way to have multiple runes for Spirit Barrage. Because I remember my big problem was I always had to pick which one I wanted, which was kind of annoying because they all have really good effects when you can double them up like this. Like already between the life regen of Phlebotomize and the mana regen of the Spirit is Willing, you can stay alive a really long time if you're careful. And your mana basically stays full all the time. Unless you cast Pyrenado. And that is something that I should warn you about. Because the instant you cast Pyrenado, your mana will fall most likely below the 90 percentile that you need to keep the Aquila Cuirass active. And if that happens, you will be super squishy until your mana refills. So if you're going to use Pyrenado, I would recommend that you do it from a distance and then just start spamming your Spirit Barrage again. or be prepared to spirit walk after you use Pyrenado, just so that you don't worry about getting squashed into the pavement in those small windows of time when the Aquila cuirass is not active. Because it may not seem like it's doing much when it's there, but believe me, you can tell when it's gone. You can definitely tell when it's gone. So, see, we're already like 3/4 of the way done with the rift, and we're well ahead of time. Shh. Wow, that speed pylon sure is doing the trick. And don't try and stay up too close and personal. Confidence ritual will kick in so long as you're within 20 yards. So, ideally, I personally try and balance it out so that I'm close enough that confidence ritual will be there, but I'm also far enough away that the stone of vengeance kicks in. So it's like a best of both worlds on that. Well, that's just me. Oh man. Now the only non-ancient piece of gear that I have is my Voo's juicer. So once I get that, my damage is going to go up even more because I'll have all ancients then. So I'm really excited for that. Like, I started throwing this build together the instant that I heard that Spirit Barrage was getting some love in the new patch. I've been watching Big Daddy Den or Anthony Evans videos. For those who don't know him, he is basically a god amongst Witch Doctor players. He always comes out with really helpful build guides for that class. I go to him basically anytime I have a question about the Witch Doctor, but he never answers me, I guess because I'm a scrub. But so once I saw that he was goofing around on the PTR with a couple variations of a Spirit Barrage build, I immediately started farming for the gear because I'm actually really excited about this. Oh no, lasers! Alright, let's move over here. Stay just far enough away from his lasers. Get those spirits out. There. And just like that. So, T13 is definitely a thing for this build. I don't need this moratorium gen, so screw that. Upgrade my Z stone. But yeah, so long as you kite and let your pets do most of the work, for now you can for now, you can run this build in anticipation of build or patch 2.4.3. I know I will be. Doesn't really matter if you do or not. But like I said, it is going to be so much stronger once the new patch hits and the barber gets its effect for Spirit Barrage. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you guys are excited about the new patch coming up soon. I would imagine that it would be released probably either within this month or early next month, given how long the PTR usually lasts for patches like this. So this is truly the end of the video this time, guys. So for those of you who stuck through till the end, thank you. Please keep an eye open for any new videos that'll be spouting up from my channel, because once the new patch hits, I'm sure there are going to be even more builds that I'm going to be able to toy around with and bring to you guys, bringing my own special little take on them. So until I see you guys next time, I just want to wish you farewell. I hope you stay well. If you're feeling sad, I hope you feel better. Just know that I'm your friend, TheMovieCuban, and I'm here for you. Have a nice night.